Alright, so there's been a ton of nerfs to Bloodlines. There's also been a new, really powerful Bloodline that's been introduced to the game. So we're going to be doing the top 10 most broken Bloodlines in Shindo Life. If we hit 275,000 subscribers before the end of this month, I am going to be dyeing my hair and my beard white for Christmas. I will become Santa J. So if you want to see that, hit that like button, subscribe. Alright guys, so coming at 10th place is going to be Inferno and or Smoke. Now, Inferno, like, I swear, when I fight Inferno or Smoke, it makes me just want to rip my eyeballs out of my head. Like, it makes me just want to, like, it just makes me want to just, you know, just not fight Inferno and Smoke, basically. Like, I would rather chop off my fingers, you know, pray to bejesus than freaking fight these two bloodlines. It is so annoying to fight these, just because when people use these bloodlines, they will literally run the entire match. I feel like if they have Inferno and or Smoke equipped and they use it, you're like, oh, it's about to be a really long match. Because if they have these equipped, almost guaranteed they are running. And even though I do really hate fighting this bloodlines, they are extremely good. These two flight abilities in general in Shindo Life are absolutely amazing, and these bloodlines are obviously no exception to the rule. Now, they have been nerfed a little bit, especially Inferno, but they are still really good, and they're, you know, very broken, as, you know, the title of the video says. All right, so coming in 9th place is going to be a Paul Sand. Now, I'm not going to be talking about this that much because it's very simple. It has an instant guard breaking ability. The second ability is a 50,000 place lock trap, and then the third ability of a Paul Sand is probably one of the, you know, best passive abilities in the game. Reduces the damage you take, makes you immune to stuns, and it's completely passive, so you can use abilities while you're in it as well. Just a really good ability in general. That's kind of all there is to say about Paul Sand. It's not really an entire bloodline itself. It's just an EKG. Now, coming in 8th place is going to be Diva Rengoku. This is honestly going to be mainly for the third ability, which is pretty much a 0.5 hand sign ability that can guard break, it can combo extend. It's just a pretty good ability in general. Now, the other abilities of Diva that is okay is the first one. I do think it's kind of hard to extend with, but it's alright. Now, the second ability got butchered really hard. The range on it is extremely small. I recommend just staying away from the second ability. Unfortunately, it did actually get ruined. And then the mode is honestly terrible. I'll just stay away from this bad boy. But the third move of Diva is so good to the point where it is going to make 8th place on this list. Now, coming in 7th place is going to be Rei Karada. Now, the Rei Karada is still a really good bloodline. As you guys can see, it's still block breaks. It's still, you know, it's still a really easy to use ability in general. I am putting this here preemptively because I know for a fact that Rei Karada is going to get nerfed. It's going to get nerfed whether it's next update, the update after, or the update after that. Rei Karada is eventually going to get nerfed, and this video will be there for the people, you know, afterwards. But until then, Rei Karada, you know, Rei Karada right now is probably about, I would say it's about 3rd place in this list. But after it gets nerfed, it's going to be in this place on the list, because I'm sure after the nerfs, it's still going to be a really good bloodline with generally really good abilities. It's just not going to be as nearly as good as it is now. But to the people watching this video now, Rei Karada is amazing. To the people watching in the future, it might not be as good. So be sure to do some research over the bloodline before you actually, you know, buy it or whatever. But as of now, it is an amazing bloodline, and it probably will be amazing for, you know, a long period of time. Just maybe not, you know, 3rd place. The coming in 6th place is going to be Shiver Ragnar. Now, you know, Shiver Ragnar honestly has pretty good stun times on the first and second ability. The actual mode of Shiver Ragnar isn't that great. I mean, it has a basic, you know, M1 combo extender, which is okay, but that's kind of all it really has going for it. It's just not, you know, it's just not a very good mode. It is what it is. But what does make this bloodline broken is the first ability, which is a guard breaking stun ability that, you know, it does a bit of damage as well. Combined with the fact that the third ability is probably one of the best counters in the game due to the fact it stuns, you know, it stuns for a decent amount of time. And, you know, it's just a good ability. I mean, that's all there is to say about it. It's just a really good counter ability. It's one of the best counters in the game right now. Now, it does actually have a pretty long range second ability that actually does a lot of damage and does stun people. But what it is good for is the first and third ability. Now, the cheek slapping bloodline itself, Snake Man Awaken right here, the Snake Boy, the cheek slapper, is honestly still a really good bloodline. It has received some fat damage nerfs, but it still is really good. You know, a lot of the moves are still pretty similar. They just actually did get damage nerfs. So rest assured, Snake Man is still a really fun bloodline to use. It's still a really good bloodline. And frankly, it's still one of the best bloodlines. I mean, it's top 5 in the most broken bloodline list. And I just like, you know, it is what it is when it comes to Snake Man. I do think that it's a really unique, really fun bloodline. I think that has a lot of potential as a bloodline. And the fact the mode actually makes the moves better, it makes it, I think that should be a more common thing that occurs in this game, because it definitely makes the bloodline a lot more unique and a lot more fun to use. Now, coming to 4th place is going to be the legendary Minakaze, once the best bloodline in the game, once trash, and now pretty good again. Now, obviously, Minakaze has had, you know, its ups and downs recently. I don't really understand the point of buffing Minakaze to just nerf it back to where it was before the buff, but Minakaze right now is absolutely amazing because of the third ability. By far, one of the best combo extenders in the game, and it has the ability to bypass blocks sometimes. So it'll straight up, pretty much you're blocking, the kunai is going to do a 360, and then it's going to go over top of you, and it's going to go right into your butt cheek, and it's going to start a combo on you. This Bloodline ability is just absolutely amazing. The actual mode itself is also pretty good. I wouldn't say it's the best in the world, but it's definitely a pretty good mode, and I do think the second ability can be useful for certain combos. Now, coming to third place is going to be Indra Akuma. Now, this one should be as a surprise to probably nobody. It's a 30 mode drain raised block bloodline that, you know, it has very high damage M1s for 30 mode drain. Let me remind you, 13k M1s that don't knock back, as you guys can see. Bro, it's really ridiculous, as you guys see. It's extremely broken. Now, besides the mode, which is actually what makes Indra so good, the mode is absolutely amazing. The first ability is a pretty much it's a 3-hand sign instant combo extending ability, so it instantly triggers on them. The stun is a, you know, 2-hand sign. They actually did increase the range on it, so it has a bit more range now. It is a stun, and then the third ability is just a guard. It's a guard breaking ability. It's honestly not good. Stay away from the third one. And then the C spec of the mode is a pretty, you know, pretty long range guard breaking ability. I would recommend not using this on someone unless they already use their counter, because it is counterable. The throwable is a counter that actually just does the first ability again, so it's an okay counter. You know, it's whatever for that. And then obviously has an extremely cool weapon spec, which is basically like a Paul Sand third ability, but as a mode. So it does give you, you know, damage resistance. It gives you stun resistance, makes you have special M1s, and it's passive. It just drains a ton of mode from you. Now, in third place was Ashura, but in second place is going to be, in third place was Indra, but in second place is going to be his better half, Ashura. Now, Ashura right here, it's pretty much just Indra, but better. that's kind of all there is to it. They took all the things about Indra that made it good and just made them better. So as a higher damage C spec, the actual M1s are the exact same, but, you know, but your raised block, I'm pretty sure the raised block of Ashura might be higher, or it might be the exact same, but it has a significantly better throwable spec. The actual throwable spec is a place lock stun instead of just a, you know, a basic ragdoll stun, and it drains chi from them as well, and the stun is longer. So it's pretty much just a better, you know, Indra throwable. The cooldown is 10 seconds higher, but I think that's a fair price to pay for it just being a completely better counter. Now, Indra and Ashura are more similar in ways than you think. It's just Ashura does it better. So the first ability, much like Indra, is a basic extender, but it stuns for longer, and it does more damage. The second move of Indra is yet another stun, but the range is longer, it guard breaks, and it drains chi from them. So it's just better as well. And then the third move of Ashura is just significantly better than Indra. It's a combo ender ability, and it's honestly just a really fun ability to use. Now, it does have the same weapon spec type of ability. I'll just go ahead and show you that. Boom. It drains a ton of mode. Your M1s are also ranged in this, which is pretty cool. And then you do get a new throwable spec, which is actually, you know, a giant branch ability, which is just Alfred Ramish's in second. Now, honorable mention 1 is going to be Van Helsing. The only reason this is going to be here is just because of the absurd amount of iframes it has, and it has a pretty good combo extending ability, which is the third one. Now, all the iframe abilities include the C spec, which actually drags you to someone, the throwable, which is an instant iframe ability that actually does a bit of damage to people. But, you know, what is actually the best thing about Van Helsing is definitely the third one, which is an instant combo extender ability. It's kind of like similar to a lot of the other things. So if you dash afterwards, you can actually send with it. And then you do have the second ability, which is really counterable, but if you know how to use it correctly, it can be quite good. Now, honorable mention 2 is going to be Strange. I'm not going to talk about this that much because it is actually fairly simple. The actual abilities of Strange, while they're okay, are not necessarily good in any way. I mean, like, maybe the stun is probably the best part of it. The other abilities have been nerfed in a lot more ways than you think. Like, the movement speed on them is reduced, the damage is reduced, but the mode is still insanely good. The C-spec is still a, you know, long-range time stop that heals you back to whatever you had before. The weapon spec is still an M1 combo extender that does tons of damage to multiple people around you. It's still a really, really good mode. It's just not as good as it was before. Now, coming in first place is going to be Big Papi Headless. Now, Big Papa Headless right here, the Headless Bloodline, the newest bloodline in the game, is not only going to be first place just because it's new. I know some of you guys are like, oh, it's the newest bloodline in the game. Why is it first place? Also, I do think for this bloodline, you should probably lose your head. Like, it's kind of... It's kind of a little bit odd that I have no body whatsoever, and I just have a random head inside the helmet. I think that's a little bit weird. But, you know, that aside, oh my freaking gosh. They made Rei Karada first ability, which is one of the single best abilities in the game, and made it better. Yes, you heard that correctly. Now, am I saying this ability needs to get gutted? No. In fact, you could honestly keep the ability as it is, but give it an insanely high cooldown. I think, in my opinion, I think cooldown nerfs should be more common than what they are. because I do think a cooldown nerf keeps a move really, really, really good while also making it not, you know, spammable. So you can keep an insanely good move, but slap really long cooldowns onto them. Like, you know, you guys know, like, ultimate moves in games sometimes have, like, cooldowns of, like, 45 seconds to even 3 minutes. Like, ultimate abilities are very common in games, and they have extremely long cooldowns. Now, I do think the best ability of a Bloodline can be, you know, extremely good just with a really long cooldown. I think that does make sense. Right now, this ability's busted. 22 seconds, iframe block breaking ability that lasts 5 seconds. Practically, you know, you can avoid it by, you know, maybe running in the air, but it doesn't matter because eventually you're going to get hit by this move if they know what they're doing. It's just an insanely busted move. It definitely makes this Bloodline in first place. It's a really good move. Now, for the other moves, the second move is an instant, you know, pretty much near instant, you know, stun ability that drags them towards you. Very cool ability, but the further you are away, you know, the more projectile time is in between. So it is actually a projectile. It's not an instant stun or anything like that, which actually does make the move a little bit worse. But I do think the stun is good enough to, you know, that is probably an average ability. I say it's a B+ tier ability. Now, this third ability is probably one of the most high pressure abilities in the game. If they have already used their counter or auto dodge, you pretty much use this ability and it'll track them down and run towards them. And then if they get hit by a single trap ability from this, they will actually get comboed. So it's a very high pressure ability. It honestly goes really, really well with the first ability. Use the third one. They have to block or they're going to get comboed. And then you use the first ability and it's over from that point on. Really, really, you know, I'm going to say this. A lot of people may not agree with this. I think this is one of the best drops as a Bloodline recently. Even though it is extremely busted, it does need, you know, maybe some cooldown increases. This is an extremely inventive Bloodline. I mean, even though some of the abilities are just, like, you know, maybe a little bit of reskins, like the first one's kind of a Rey Corrado reskin. The second ability is insanely cool. Even though it's kind of like Blood Third, it's still an insanely cool ability. And this third ability is an insanely cool ability. It's like a summon that lasts a little bit of time that someone's trapped for you. It's like a little pet that runs around. It's a really, really cool Bloodline. I love that ability in general. Now let's get on to the mode. The mode's really nothing special. The M1s aren't, you know, you don't get special M1s or anything like that. The C-Spec is a very, very close range combo extending ability that does like 70,000 damage. So it's a high damage ability, but it isn't really that great. The actual weapon spec of it is pretty much, it's like the second ability, but it casts from a beam instead of a projectile. It also has a lower cooldown than the second ability, so that's something. And then obviously, you know, as all of the Bloodlines recently, it has a throwable counter ability. Now the throwable counter ability is pretty much just a, you know, a high damage sand counter. It stomps on them, it place locks them, and it does a lot of damage. Anyways, guys, that's for this video. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe, guys. Bye bye.